Alright guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're doing a comparison on my Vive Pro 2 and the Quest Pro to see which one is better for PCVR gaming. Obviously they both offer a very different experience, so I want to talk about the differences in each and which one I personally like using for PCVR, so you guys can get some information and see which one may be right for you. Let's go ahead and get into the video.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a brekkie is the gaming tech. Gaming tech is the gaming tech. Gaming techie.
Alright guys, so the first thing I want to talk about here is the comfort. So let's go ahead and start with the Pro here, as you guys are looking at. Now, this is the Pro right here in my hands. Now, of course, the Pro is very subjective on what you guys think is comfortable. There's some people out there that this doesn't really work for them, that they say that they get uncomfortable after about an hour of putting it on their head just because of the way their shape is. Honestly, it seems like a lot of the people who are complaining about that are have no hair and are bald from what I've seen. From all the people who are commenting, it seems like that's the case. That obviously may not be 100% true, but that's what I've seen so far on the forum posts and stuff. And for me, this is the most comfortable headset I've ever worn. I could wear this for hours on end. The people that I showed it to kind of fall in the same camp. Obviously, I'm not bald here, and obviously my shape may differ from everyone else. So, again, comfortability is going to be different compared to who you are. But for me, most comfortable headset for me is definitely the Quest Pro. As far as just having it on your head for a very long time. Having the blinders on the side keeps away all the light from the side, and then with the full blocker coming soon, obviously I'll have the light block from the bottom as well. But even with the light coming in at the bottom, I still find playing PCVR games way more comfortable on this headset because I can wear it for hours on end and it feels like nothing is pressing against my face except for the top right here, which I don't have any issues with. The weight's distributed really well, and I really like it. Now, when you move across to the Vive Pro 2, which is right here behind me here, this one is the Halo strap design as well, and it has the strap, of course, on the top, and it is really comfortable as far as putting it on your head. My issue with the comfortability with the Vive Pro 2 is the fact that it gets really hot. Not something that happens with the Quest Pro, but when I'm playing with the Vive Pro 2, after about an hour and stuff, it gets really hot in the headset, where sometimes I either have to just endure it and just pretend it doesn't exist, or sometimes take a break, depending on how bad it gets, because it kind of varies. But I think that's the biggest issue with the Vive Pro 2, which we've all talked about, is the fact that the heat on it is kind of crazy. When it comes to wearing it for about an hour, you really get hot in the headset. Because there's no active cooling or anything, so that may lead to some, discomfort. But as far as the headset itself and the straps, it is really comfortable. I would say that they're kind of on par. It just depends on what you're actually looking for. That one being really comfortable, and so is this one. But with the fact that this one gets hot after an hour, I'm gonna have to give the edge over to obviously the Quest Pro as far as it being comfortable. Now, as far as the enclosure and stuff, when you're all in there, of course, you don't have to deal with light blockers and stuff. So this one kind of feels like you're more enclosed and more immersed into VR. So that's a leg up with this one here. Even with the light blockers that are going to come out on the full facial on this one right now, you feel more immersed because everything is fully covered. The next thing we got to talk about, of course, is the lenses on both of these and the colors and stuff that they reproduce. Now, on the Vive Pro 2 here behind me, it does face a lot of issues with screen glare and all that kind of stuff that we're kind of used to with the Fresnel lenses and stuff, where it has the God rays on the side. That's very apparent. There's the text on the screen as well, and white text on a high contrast background on the Vive Pro 2 even has the issue where if you move your head really fast back and forth, kind of looks like the text is kind of warping a little bit and stuff. We've talked about that in the full review, and a lot of people have talked about that. That's kind of exclusive to the Vive Pro 2 in that case. But the actual screen clarity is, of course, really good because this is a 5K headset. This has 25 by 25 resolution. So you do get the higher resolution on it, which kind of combats it, but you will have that screen glare and the God rays kind of shining on you on the Vive Pro 2, and of course the little warping effect that you have when you move your head back and forth really fast on the screen. Now on the on the Quest Pro, of course, the lenses are fantastic. They're using the pancake lenses now, and they're the best lenses I've used in VR. Not in terms of resolution, because obviously the resolution is higher on this headset, so you will see more screen clarity and stuff, but just the fact that there's no God rays on here, the text is super clear, really easy to see. The colors are better on the Quest Pro than they are on here as well. They have a much more rich detail to them, and things pop more off the screen, and the text is just easier to read and all that stuff. So as far as the screen clarity and stuff, it's an easy win for the Quest Pro. But of course, resolution being a little under 2,000 per eye on this one, I think it's 1800 by 1920. It's definitely obviously a lot higher on this one, so it's kind of hard to choose sometimes. Do you want to deal with the screen glare and the slightly worse colors and slightly not as good text to read, or do you want to have that higher resolution where you don't have to deal with that, but you get a much better screen quality or screen resolution where you see a lot more detail in games and stuff? So it's hard to decide, but sometimes I do want, like, depending on the game I'm playing, if I'm playing Half-Life Alyx or something, I'm going to want the higher resolution to see it at 5K and to see all those details as high as possible and be okay with it. But obviously, if I'm in a headset to watch big screen or watch something that's more relaxing and stuff like that, then I might want to choose this just because the lenses are better when it comes to that. So it is hard to decide when it comes to PCVR gaming. They both have their pros and cons, but I think for me, as a graphics person that always wants it, sometimes I lean more to the Vive Pro 2 just so I can get that 5K resolution, even though you could, of course, use virtual desktop on here and kind of get it really close with the new godlike ultra graphics setting if you have the right combination of the router and everything, which I assume if you're watching this video you do, really close to that graphic fidelity and kind of just up the super sampling to 2500 by 2500, and you do get like a good representation of it, but it's still obviously better when you have a true 5K panel on here. So if graphics are your main thing, then obviously this is going to be it, but obviously take into account that you're going to have better screen clarity and no God rays and all that stuff on the Quest Pro. Moving on then, of course, is the FOV on this. Now, the FOV is definitely better on the Vive Pro 2. There's no question about that at this point. You're going to get, obviously, the wider field of view. It's about 116 degrees on the Vive Pro 2 horizontal, and then 106 degrees on the Quest Pro, which is a great improvement over the Quest 2 and stuff, but it's still not as high as the Vive Pro 2 we're talking about here. So, and you do get a little bit higher of resolution, or sorry, a little bit higher FOV vertically on the Vive Pro 2 as well compared to the Quest Pro. Obviously, I would choose the Vive Pro 2 when it comes to FOV because it's obviously larger. Once you get in there, you feel more immersed because you can see more. When I have like the rowing and stuff like that, when I was playing in one of the games, I could see a little bit more of the outskirts of the paddle just because the FOV is larger. So you will get that full, more immersive experience on something like the Vive Pro 2 and PCVR games because obviously the FOV is bigger. But the Quest Pro still gives you a pretty good increase compared to what you came for before if you're coming from the Quest 2 and stuff. As far as horizontal FOV, that's a nice change of pace. Now the next thing we're going to talk about is the built-in speakers, of course. The Quest Pro obviously has the built-in speakers here on the side. They did improve it over the Quest 2 where now it's kind of more in your ear because obviously the strap is built in. So the speakers kind of fit right above your ear where they should be, and it kind of pumps more volume in there, so they do sound better than what the Quest 2 was. But they definitely don't sound, I wouldn't say they sound better than the Vive Pro 2. Even though the Vive Pro 2 doesn't have the best sound quality, especially compared to the Valve Index that I've had before and stuff, it is a better immersive experience to have them off ear like that than the Pro is. So you do get better sound quality on the Vive Pro 2 when you're playing different things in PCVR. Now, of course, we got to talk about how you actually play these devices when it comes to PCVR. So, of course, on the Quest Pro, you're going to be using either a cable or you're going to be using either AirLink or Virtual Desktop. I'm going to talk about Virtual Desktop because that's what I use. So, when it comes to using the Quest Pro, of course, you have the ability to use Virtual Desktop and stream wirelessly. And playing with no wires, especially in some games that I play on the PCVR platform, is fantastic and a huge advantage on why people are going to pick playing on the Quest 2 or the Quest Pro in PCVR alone, just because you can actually play wirelessly, which is fantastic. Now, you could do this on the Vive Pro 2 as well, but you're going to have to buy a cable, or sorry, an adapter that makes you use it and kind of wear it on your head, which is a lot more cumbersome. Have an adapter on your PC, and then even then, you don't get the 5K panel resolution. It's a lot lower than that because you can't stream it on wireless. So there's a lot of hoops and hurdles to run around with there. But natively, obviously, you can't do it on the Vive Pro 2. And on the Quest Pro, you're ready to go. You get the Virtual Desktop app, and you can do the super sampling like I talk about to get as close to 2500 resolution as you can on the Quest Pro. And it is a great experience if you have the right equipment. If you have a 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi router and 6 gigahertz and all that kind of stuff. With the router that you need, then the Virtual Desktop is a fantastic experience playing PCVR games, especially wireless. Now, of course, you could use the cable as well, and when you use the cable, then I would say if you're comparing using the link cable on the Quest Pro, where you're cabled in, compared to using the Vive Pro here, then at that point I would choose the Vive Pro just because of the higher resolution. And then we go back to the same argument again. What do you care more about, the better screen clarity and colors, or do you care more about the higher resolution? Because at that point you're both wired in. So you're going to have these same ideas for both. But like I said, it's a fantastic experience to be able to play PCVR games wirelessly on the Quest Pro, especially with those pancake lenses. Now, also, we got to talk about the controllers here, of course. This being I obviously use the Valve Index controllers that have been renowned to be fantastic with the Vive Pro 2. And then, of course, we have the Quest Pro controllers here. Now, the Valve Index controllers that I use on here are, of course, fantastic. You can obviously put them right on your hand and have it strapped on, so you can kind of let go of the controller and throw a grenade. It feels more immersive because you can just let go and you don't have to hold anything. It has obviously the finger tracking and stuff that we all know and love and all that kind of stuff. And the controller is obviously great to play with. Now, when it comes with the new Quest Pro controllers, they both are rechargeable and stuff, so you need to recharge both on battery. They probably last about as much on each. I get about like 6 hours or so on the Valve Index, and that's what I've been getting on the Quest Pro as well. Controllers, I get about 6 hours, so as far as that goes, you're going to be recharging them both as you would with either of them. Additions on the Pro controllers here are actually really cool. So it does have the finger tracking similar to what the Valve Index does, which is great. It doesn't have these straps, so you can't let go of the controller. However, of course, you could get third-party accessories that can make it do that if you want to for 30 bucks or so. So you can get that feature if you want. But what really sets the Quest Pro controllers apart is the fact that it has the touch pressure sensitivity on the top, which is really cool, which the Valve Index has as well. So they're kind of on parity now, where it has that on the back on here, and this one has it on the top. And then the haptic feedback on this is definitely better than I think the Valve Index is, where you can actually feel the haptic feedback now coming from different points on the controller. So if you're hitting the trigger, you can feel it up here. Kind of like PlayStation 5 controllers and stuff, where you can feel where it's coming from. So I definitely give the haptic feedback a nod to the Quest Pro controllers over the Valve Index controllers. As far as tracking on both of these, they are a lot closer now than they've ever been, because these having their own cameras on them now, they track better than even the Quest 2 controllers do. You can hide it behind your back and all that kind of stuff now. So they're much more on par, where I don't think either you're going to make a determining factor on that itself. Obviously, you need to set up light bases if you're going to use this, so it's a little bit more cumbersome, depending on if you have a certain room for it or not, and these are kind of all in one and you're ready to go. So that's going to kind of depend on you. But I think for me, it's kind of a negating factor for both. I do think that they're both really, really good. The only thing is that the Valve Index controllers are ready to go at all times, because the light bases are seeing them at all times. Where this one, if you kind of put them out of view for a while, it takes about 5-7 seconds for it to like start working again, which a lot of people have been talking about when you first put them into the view of your view. But once they're in there, I think they're really, really solid, and I don't think I can make any complaints with either of them as it comes to tracking. I think they're really close. I think if you were nitpicking, I'm sure that these are probably a little bit better, but I think for most everyday use cases and most everyday users now, these are pretty on par when it comes to tracking. And the last thing I'm going to talk about here is, of course, the battery life. Of course, this one being wired in at all times, there is no battery life. It's always ready to go when you are. When you're talking about using the Quest Pro wirelessly, like we talked about before, you obviously only have about 2 hours of battery life when you're doing virtual desktop streaming. 2 to 2.5 hours is what I'm getting so far when it comes to PCVR streaming. So that's the battery life you got to deal with. And then, of course, then you'll have to charge it again, or you'll have to attach a battery strap to the back when people start doing that, or you'll have to use a link cable, and then it will charge over the link cable, and you can do it that way and then never run out of battery because it's always charging. So there is that caveat that if you're just comparing wireless streaming to this, obviously you're going to have to worry about battery life and charge it up every 2 to 2.5 hours. But for most people, including me, that is well worth it of a trade-off, so you can actually play wireless with some of these games that I think definitely are worthy of a wireless experience. Alright guys, so that is a comparison of both of these headsets. It gives you guys an idea of what you guys want to do. For me, most of the time when it's a story-driven game where I'm going to be fully immersed, like Half-Life Alyx, or all these other games that are coming out that are very story-centric and you're not moving around a lot and doing all these crazy motions, I am more than likely going to pick the Vive Pro 2 because of the wider FOV, the 5K resolution, and all that kind of stuff. That's why I keep both of these around, because I want to see what 5K looks like, even though the lenses are not as good as far as screen glare and the God rays and all that kind of stuff. It's still a great experience in 5K, and you really do see a crazy amount of detail, especially with that wider FOV. But when it comes to different experiences on PCVR, depending on what I'm playing, if I'm playing like the hockey game that I've played before where I'm trying to be a goalie and stuff and it's going to rely on fast reflexes, I want that wireless experience. So I go ahead and use the Quest Pro, where I'm getting a fantastic experience and I see that screen clarity much better. Then I kind of use that for those kind of experiences that are fast twitching and stuff like that, and not story oriented. So it kind of depends on my mood, essentially, is what I'm telling you. But for you guys, with all the information I gave you, at least hopefully you can come up with a conclusion. I know obviously most people are not going to have two like I'm in the luxury of doing here to cover them for this channel, but I personally think that if I only have room for one headset to play PCVR, I honestly would probably choose the Quest Pro, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because I kind of get the middle ground of the best of both worlds. If I can only afford one, I get to use Quest Pro, and I get to use all the Quest 2 games and all the native games on it, and bring it to people's houses and have an all-in-one headset where I can play it in the bed, or I can take it to a friend's house and show it to them, have all of those experiences. And then on top of that, I get to do PCVR and have a great experience with those better lenses and better colors and stuff, and just take a hit on the resolution side where the graphics may not be as good, but with the super sampling it's still going to be really good overall, especially playing PCVR games, and it's going to be a fantastic experience anyway. So I think that's where I come down to it, is I get kind of two experiences in one with the Quest Pro, where if I can only choose one headset for a while, I would choose the Quest Pro just on that fact and lose out on the 5K resolution on the Vive Pro and kind of stick to the Quest Pro at that point. So, but that's something you guys will have to determine on your own based on everything I said in this video, so hopefully I helped you guys make that determining factor. If you guys have any questions about anything we talked about in the video today, guys, as always, leave it down below. If not, thank you guys for watching. Till next time.